Flower power is alive and well in New York City, where one man's work with the homeless is a blooming business. In our checkup segment, Dr. Kelly explains why that pain in your stomach may not be indigestion. And stay with us for a few second thoughts with Father Pat Lavin as he shares his humor on turning 50. All this and more next on Real to Real.
Hello again, everyone. I'm Paul Perello.
Hi, I'm Pat Shelton, and welcome back to Real to Real.
What a program we have for you tonight. First, we're going to meet and discuss about the early days of the Catholics in the United States with an area film writer-producer.
We really do have a delightful program for you tonight, and part of that delight is our Second Thoughts feature with Father Pat Lavin. Tonight, he has the blues, the birthday blues. But first, we want to tell you about a program in New York City directed toward homeless, illiterate, and delinquent youth. The program offers them food, shelter, and clothing, education, and a trade. Let's watch Flowers with Care.
I thought everybody was just gonna, make games and jokes and everything about it, but it seems like everybody is behind me 100%.
At one time in life, I thought I would never be involved in it. I didn't really even give it a second thought. Flowers, I didn't pay no attention to it.
Well, the first impression was flowers. I never even thought about flowers. I never even brought a flower. So, you sort of think that it's a little funny for a guy working with flowers at the beginning. That's how I felt until I got here.
What effect do plants and flowers have on people? If an inner-city delinquent youth was surrounded with beautiful greenery and flowers, learned to be needed and cared about, could he change? Well, Reverend James Harvey decided to find out.
I became very frustrated with young people coming into the criminal justice system who really shouldn't be there. I had a friend who was a florist, and I asked him if he would take my young people, train them, employ them, and give them hope for a future. It started 10 years ago in one store, and today in New York there are 177 florists.
St. John University professor Kevin Fogarty tells about Reverend Harvey's start.
He started literally with nothing, with simply his own idea, his own drive and determination. Flowers with Care is really something that he has structured and constructed from the first brick up.
A total facility is available to the young people when they first come for help.
When a young person comes in here, it's almost a triage situation. That is, do they have food? Do they have clothes? Do they have a place to sleep, first of all? That's what we're concerned about. After that, they're educationally tested. The average reading and math level is the second grade. Over 40% of our young people that come into Flowers with Care today are totally illiterate, cannot read or write. We give them remedial education.
Read it for me, John, question 9.
The girl's bracelet is mentioned to show that the girl is spoiled,
Okay.
Over 700 young people come to us every year, and it's growing dramatically. Last January and February in New York, the temperature was about 0. 407 young people came in 2 months. The New York Citizens Committee for Children estimates that there are 20,000 homeless adolescents on the streets of New York City today. In New York City, this year, there are 209 shelter beds available for those 20,000 homeless adolescents.
Basic floral design and recognizing different types of flowers is taught to the students. They learn what flowers will look best and where to put them. Marianne Cornell not only wants to teach the youths, but also change their attitudes.
I find that they come in with many negative feelings and ideas about themselves. So this is an opportunity to say to them the positive things that I discover about them.
After they're evaluated and given counseling, then they're placed in a florist. And the florist then employs the young person, trains them, and our staff visits the store a minimum of once every 2 weeks.
The students work at floral shops throughout the city. Storekeepers are eager to teach their trade to the interested youths. Most shops keep a hectic pace.
Well, there's an awful lot of pressure. You're always racing a clock, and the young people do it best. There's no doubt about it.
Besides learning the floral trade, students working in the shops experience a side of life they've never known. They're also able to meet many new people.
Hello.
Hello. They are involved in parts of families, the deepest sorrow or the greatest joy, funerals, weddings. It's something that these young people have never seen before. 95% of the kids that come to Flowers with Care have no hope of ever returning home. And they become part of other people's families.
The students learn to be responsible, trustworthy, and above all, caring individuals.
It's a great experience to watch a young person who has never in their whole life ever felt needed or wanted, all of a sudden to become an integral part of a store, to feel that they are needed, they're wanted, they have something to offer. It's a great experience.
Counselors work with me, rather, and they got me into a steady working flow, which helped my mind, develop more and, start learning different things that seemed to make a little bit more sense instead of just hanging out in the street.
Once in the program, few students drop out. They recognize a new beginning for themselves. Though the shops may not be too far from where they hung out in the past, the once delinquent youths know they've come a long way. After completing the program, they go their separate ways in the job market. Each gets involved in what interests them the most. But what interests many is staying in the floral business, learning everything they can about the trade, and working their way up to better positions.
Oh, I enjoy it a lot, especially being that I'm the designer now. I like it, because everything I do reflects on me.
He started out as a worker in the shop. He'd clean up and wait on customers and do some of the menial things. And now he's practically the manager.
Right now, I like to keep designing and working here, and hopefully one day I can open my own business. That's, one of my goals right now.
We have several of our young people that now manage or own their own florists. And I guess in a certain sense, I'm very, very proud of each one of them that the young people have taken on, and they've really started a whole new life for themselves.
Wanting to be where they are is important for the students.
The people that are there not because it's a job, but because they see it as a vocation, as a calling, something that they want to do. And in any child caring facility, that is what counts.
There are many programs like the one we just saw across the country, but this looks like to be one of the best. Of course, these kids, these youth are actually doing something positive. They make it look so easy, arranging flowers, but they're learning many valuable lessons in what they're doing today up in New York. Up next on Reel to Reel, oftentimes the brunt of many jokes. In our checkup report, Dr. John Kelly tells us ulcers are no laughing matter.
You've just finished paying your taxes, barely made your mortgage payment, and just found out your mother-in-law is coming to visit for 3 weeks. Then you notice a burning, achy, or gnawing pain in your stomach. If this pain is relieved by eating, you may have an ulcer or peptic ulcer disease. An ulcer occurs when stomach acid actually erodes part of the stomach linings, causing symptoms that range from indigestion to severe pain. Most ulcers actually occur in the duodenum, or first part of the small intestines. Shown here in this upper GI series, or barium swallow, the stomach is outlined very well, demonstrating the first part of the small intestine, or duodenum, exactly here. These duodenal ulcers are far more common than gastric ulcers, which occur in the stomach proper. Gastric ulcers are more worrisome since they can be linked to stomach cancer. High levels of stress, a family history of ulcers, type O blood, and smoking seem to increase your risk for developing ulcers. The role of diet in promoting ulcers is unclear since different foods seem to bother different people. However, prolonged use of alcohol, aspirin, and nonsteroidal anti-inflammatories like ibuprofen do seem to increase one's risk. In its mildest form, the pain of an ulcer resembles hunger, but more severe symptoms can be a gnawing or burning pain or sensation that awakens you 1 to 2 hours after falling asleep. These are characteristic of an ulcer. Ingestion of food or antacids relieves pain because it helps neutralize stomach acid. If you think you have an ulcer, see your doctor. He or she may want to run a few tests, including an upper GI series, to be sure that you don't have a gastric ulcer, which may need closer attention. This test, which is painless, involves swallowing a barium substance to coat your stomach and allows x-rays to detect any craters or ulceration of your stomach lining. If you do have any ulcers, your doctor will likely encourage you to avoid those specific foods which seem to increase your symptoms. He or she will also encourage you to eat frequent small meals to keep stomach acid levels low. It is also likely that you'll be on some type of medication that will either decrease stomach acid production, neutralize stomach acid, or enhance your stomach wall's defense against acid. Drugs that decrease acid secretion, such as Zantac, are very effective and help almost 90% of duodenal ulcers to heal in 8 weeks. These are usually taken at bedtime, and side effects, fortunately, are rare. Antacids taken after meals and at bedtime can effectively reduce stomach acid and contain either magnesium or aluminum like Maalox or Mylanta, calcium, which is found in Tums, or some type of sodium compound. Each has mild side effects ranging from diarrhea for magnesium preparations to hypertension for brands containing sodium. Cytotec and Carafate are both drugs which may protect the stomach lining from acid damage. Cytotec, unlike Carafate, has no aluminum and may prevent ulcers in those chronically ingesting aspirin or related drugs like ibuprofen. Recognized early, most ulcers respond readily to medications. If left untreated, however, ulcers can progress and lead to more serious conditions such as bleeding, which may even require surgery. If you've been experiencing any of these symptoms, the cause could be an ulcer. Don't ignore the message your stomach is sending you. Call your doctor and set up an appointment in the meantime. Try to control stress, since excess stress has been linked to an increase in stomach acid production. For checkup, I'm Dr. John Kelly, and if you excuse me, I have a waiting room full of angry patients.
I see Dr. Kelly is really starting to loosen up. But seriously, he really does give a lot of good advice. And now I recommend that you stay tuned for the second half of Reel to Reel for our studio interview, some pet advice, and a very funny piece by Father Pat Lavin on getting older.
Family life is very much broken, and if the families don't pray, it's very difficult to come to live together, to love one another, and to share the joy and the suffering together. That's what makes the family life livable, that one is together, that living together.
Take a moment to join the family of the Archdiocese of Philadelphia by sharing the prayer for renewal with your loved ones.
Welcome back to Reel. Did you know that in the early 1700s, when pilgrims escaped the tyrannical rule of the King of England, they came here for freedom of speech, freedom of religion? But did you know that in this Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, many Catholics coming to the United States found religious persecution, and many Catholics were not allowed to own property or even run for elected office? Well, these events, while omitted from the official history books, are documented in a new film called First Freedom, which by no coincidence will debut on PBS during Archives Week in Pennsylvania. Adrienne Murphy is the writer and producer of this documentary. She scoured the archives of 40 Philadelphia institutions to research graphic images for her film. Welcome to our program.
Thank you, Paul.
How long did it take to complete this PBS film?
We've been working on it for almost 2 years, from starting the research to the final edit. So we're looking forward to seeing it air.
When I first started researching for our program, I was shocked to learn that many of the people that were coming from England here for freedom of religion really didn't find it here in Pennsylvania, did they?
No, they didn't, and certainly not in the adjoining colonies. I know as Americans, we tend to assume that people came from Western Europe and immediately were able to set up any type of religious service in this country, which was not the case. The Quakers were tortured rather horribly in New England, and Pennsylvania, under William Penn's Charter of Liberties, was presumed to be a more liberal situation, but when the Catholics arrived, actually the first priest to settle here, a Jesuit father, Joseph Grayton, came disguised as a Quaker. And in fact, his public celebration of the Mass was challenged by the Provincial Council. It was a 1734 decision allowing that public celebration of Mass in Pennsylvania, which was to become one of the precedents used for Article 1 of the First Amendment.
Now, when this Jesuit father came to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, where did he settle? Where did he set up his church when he arrived here in Philadelphia?
Well, he didn't feel comfortable enough to build a church. He bought a little plot of land through an agent, I might add, and not under his own name, on Walnut Street, next to the Quaker Almshouse, and he built a rather inconspicuous house and out kitchen. He had a very small congregation, about 40 people, 11 families, and he began to say Mass regularly in this out kitchen. So even today, St. Joseph's Church doesn't have a steeple. It's still kind of hard to find.
How about that? Now, you got involved in this project more than 2 years ago. When did you first get interested in tracing, if you will, the roots of the Catholic Church, and which, of course, led to the documentary First Freedom?
Well, I had been working on setting up an archives at Old St. Joseph's, which is a national shrine of religious freedom. And as I went through the papers, there was a story which really just emerged. And I hadn't realized why President Eisenhower in 1959 had made the church a national shrine. And as this story began to piece itself together, I found it rather shocking. And also as a Catholic and as an American, I took it rather for granted that this was a place where people had always been allowed to worship freely. And so I had lectured on the subject and got a good response, and we decided to go for it and make it a film.
Now, the premiere of your film, your documentary film, First Freedom, coincides, if you will, with Archives Week in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania as well as in the city of Philadelphia. When will we be able to see the program on television?
We will see it first on May 17th, which is a Sunday at 11:30 a.m., and again on May 22nd at 3 in the afternoon.
Now, this celebration of Archives Week, if you will, is meant to be a time set aside to do a number of things. There are a number of activities that will take place in this area. One is Family Heritage Day at the Balch Institute, I believe.
Right, we're very excited. Archives Week is actually a statewide celebration. The governor has declared it and will open it. In Philadelphia, Mayor Rendell will make a formal proclamation on Monday, May 18th. Archives Week is a joint effort of the Pennsylvania Historic and Museum Commission and the Delaware Valley Archives Group. We as a city are extremely rich in cultural resources and archives. Delaware Valley Archives Group itself has over 190 members, so that's a tremendous number of institutions. And there will be special lectures, exhibits, tours of various facilities, and we're hoping to let people know that this is not just for the strict academics, and that this is a wonderful way to preserve and our heritage, the documents associated with it, and promote the fact that Philadelphia is just an extraordinary city for this type of resource.
What do you say to the person that says to you, why do we need to be bothered with our past? You know, let's worry about 1992. Why do we have to go back and look at what happened, you know, in the 1700s?
Well, a certain quote from, I believe it's Santa Ana, comes to mind. Those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it. That's one reason. The other is that this is the preservation of our culture. I mean, if we look at artifacts from the Egyptians, that's how we know about them. And so the documents and photographs and videotapes of today are the archives of tomorrow. And it's really such a rich part of our past that it's an extremely valuable resource to not only academics, but artists like myself.
Okay. It is Archives Week. It is May 17th through May 23rd, and please look for the documentary on your PBS stations, First Freedom, by C. Adrienne Murphy. We're going to switch gears here now, and now that the warmer weather is here and our April showers have led to May flowers, it also means flea and tick season. In our environmental corner, we learned that those pet collars may not be all that safe for the environment or rover.
Set materials for Reel to Reel provided by Tague Lumber Incorporated, serving the Delaware Valley for over 75 years. And by John Wanamaker, fine stores in the Delaware Valley.
These days, times are tough for many of us, but some have it even tougher. For over 25 years, the House of Charity has been reaching out to victims of hardship in South Jersey, regardless of race, religion, or national origin. Agencies receiving support provide food for the hungry, medical attention for the poor, care for the elderly, and training for the handicapped. Don't close the book on them. Consider a generous tax-deductible contribution to the House of Charity.
We welcome your comments, suggestions, and donations and encourage you to write us at Reel to Reel, St. Charles Seminary, 1000 East Wynwood Road, Overbrook, PA 19096, or call us during regular business hours at 668-9842.
Gather those pets together. This piece is for them. Those pet collars they may be wearing could be dangerous to their health.
In America, dogs and cats number 100 million. We want to protect them from fleas, but the 50 million flea collars we toss in the trash every year become a potentially powerful problem. A pesticidal time bomb, so to speak. But it's not just a problem with our environment. Pet collars contain chemicals which kill fleas, sure, but at the same time, these chemicals can cause damage to your dog's or cat's liver and nerves, even cause mutations and birth defects. Teenage mutant ninja cocker spaniels, if you will. So, what can we do? Try home remedies such as blending orange and grapefruit skins, simmering them in water, and after they're cooled, rubbing them with your hands onto your pet's fur. Not only will that help with their fleas, but your pet will love the attention. And hey, it's worth it to have a fruity-smelling dog or cat if it protects them, right? Little Cujo won't mind smelling like a cantaloupe. Anyway, something else you can do is put brewer's yeast or garlic in your pet's diet. For some mysterious reason, fleas can't stand that stuff. So, protect your pets from fleas and the environment from flea collars. I'm David Smith in the Environmental Corner.
From pet collars to something we all have to go through if we're lucky enough. That's passing that half-century mark. Time now for Father Pat Lavin, his second thoughts, and his birthday blues.
Happy birthday, dear Father Pat. Happy birthday to you.
Oh, God, you know how to hurt a guy, I can tell you that much. I came here to the Greenbrier to get away from the rectory and to get away from this 50th birthday. Can you believe it? 50 years old, the big 5-0. I remember the days when I used to think that was ancient. Starting getting a little nervous, that's why I came here. You see, my brother John turned 50. I got together with my brother Joe and we played a little joke on him, just a little one. I had buttons made up of him with a photograph of when he was a freshman on the football team at the University of Pennsylvania. And on the button it read, "John Lavin is 50, isn't that nifty?" And then we quietly stole into number 5 Penn Center, and for the 3 floors of Johnny Montgomery Scott, we passed out the nifty 50 buttons to everybody in the place. When John arrived, he walked in and passed by everyone's desk, and they would say, "Hi, John," with a big smile and a little bit of a chuckle. By the time he got to his office, he saw my brother Joe and I, and he said, "What are you guys up to?" And because he has double vision, he couldn't see what was written on all the buttons on the way through the place, and he turned his head slightly, and he looked at us, he says, "Oh." And a few expletives came out, and then he started laughing like mad. Well, 2 years later, John and I got together and did the same thing to Joe. Had the buttons made up of him swimming as a freshman at LaSalle College. And we went into St. Agnes's Medical Center in South Philadelphia, where Joe was the purchasing director. And we passed out the buttons to every single person, from Sister Clarence, who was the president of the hospital, to the doctors and the nurses and the janitors and the patients. And then we had a big poster made up and put in the lobby of the same thing saying, Joe Lavin swims into his 50th year. Well, come May 16th, I'm there myself. And I'm getting nervous because I have pictures in my head of what's going to happen to me. Oh, they really couldn't do it to me. I can picture one of those great big yellow signs that light up with the lights that spin around and an arrow pointing towards my church, planted on the front lawn saying, Father Pat is fat and 50. Or maybe a banner going across the street saying, Father Pat prays himself into his second half century. Oh yeah, they're going to get me. It's like, I feel like I was a kid and got into a fight in school. And the sister would break us up and the kid would say, I'll get you on the way home. And all the way home, you know he's going to get you. You're not positive how he's going to get you. So you look very cautiously behind every car and every step and up every alley. Well, that's where I am today. I know that they're going to get me. How is what's killing me. It frightens me, to say the least. You see, because they're Irish, and Irish, they don't get mad, they get even. Oh God, I'm afraid. But I have to thank God, even though I'm going to be 50, I'm positive I'm not going to turn gray overnight or lose every hair on my head. And I guess I have to get up and blow a kiss in the mirror and say, God is good, I have another day to live. So, the next time I see you will be in my second half century. This is Father Pat Lavin. I wish you peace, I wish you shalom. And guys, I really was only kidding. Please, please don't. Oh, please don't. Oh, God. Happy birthday.
I have the buttons, Father. Watch out.
That's hysterical. You know, he's clearly more worried about his brother's tricks than the trauma that some people go through passing 50.
Yep.
It's funny.
Well, that's it for this edition of Reel to Reel. Until next week, I'm Paul Pirello.
And I'm Pat Shelton. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
If you want an experience of what that first Pentecost Sunday might have been for the apostles and the holy women, then join us for our charismatic rally at Villanova University on May 29, 30, and 31st.
More than 3,000 Catholic charismatics will gather from the Delaware Valley area in the beautiful DuPont Pavilion located on the campus at Villanova. For more information, contact our charismatic office, phone 668-HOPE.